So welcome in another revision session. We have a recently done paper Rchrp 10 performance and productivity management. So straight to number 2. It says number 2A, identify the advantages of behavioral anchored rating scale method of performance appraisal. So this is one of the methods or tools of performance management that we looked at in our notes. And behavioral anchored rating scale is that scale that is used to measure the performance based on behavior of the employees within the organization. So you come up with a checklist of behavior, or you come up with a checklist of like the behaviors associated with a certain occupation or with a certain designation within the organization. If you are an accountant, how are you supposed to behave? What are some of the qualities should you have? If you are a HR manager, what are some of the qualities should you have? If you are for example, administrator, what are some of the qualities should you have? So here you will come up with a checklist of the qualities that you expect the employees to have. And then when it comes to measuring performance, you basically use that checklist and try to see whether that said person matches the checklist or basically not. So that is how behavioral anchored rating scale works. So what are some of the advantages associated with this method of performance appraisal? Number one, it's very much flexible. It can be applied from one job to another or from one role to another, and it is very easy to use. That is also another advantage. Very easy to use, since once you have the checklist of qualities or behaviors that you want your employees to have, it's very easy for you to compare and contrast to see whether indeed this person is meeting the said standard of behavior or basically not. So it's very easy to use. And then also it is aligned, it has a clear alignment, meaning that there's a clear link between employee performance and the goals. And this is by use of that list, that checklist that you'll have for the qualities or the behavior that you want your employees basically to have. So there's a very clear connection between behavior and performance, in that if you have the same behavior, it's most likely that you're going to perform. And if you don't exhibit that behavior, especially those qualities that are in that checklist, then that definitely means that you're not going to perform. So it will be very easy for the management or maybe the committee responsible to basically know what is the way forward whenever people are not in a position to meet up with them same standard of behavior. And then it's also very much fair. Why? Because the emphasis is on behavior and and bias. There's no way someone will say you've not behaved this way, and you behave basically openly and clearly. So there's no way somebody can become biased when you're using the BAS or the behavioral anchored rating scale, basically because your behavior is something that is open to everyone. So because of that, it's a very fair method of measuring performance. And then you can talk of it's highly individualized because behavior varies from one person to another. So there is no way you can use a scale for another person and basically associate it with another person. This one will basically favor only a person of a given position or a given designation within the company. Lastly, it clarifies performance standards. Once you know the behavior that job wants, basically you understand what is expected of you without even having to read much or without even having to involve yourself in so many issues. So at the end of the day, the moment you've been given that checklist, or the moment you've been made aware that this is the kind of behaviors or the qualities that we expect from you, already a certain measure of standard has been put. So it's all up to you whether you'll be able to meet up with it so that you can be able to perform and maybe get rewarded or motivated in one or the other, or basically not. So it really classifies the performance standards based on that aspect of behavior. The moment the behavior that is needed has been made open and has been made basically known to you, you already have a standard to set. So it's all up to the employee to see whether he or she is going to meet up with the qualities or the behaviors that are needed for the job or not. Because the moment you meet up with that standard or the checklist or the behaviors that have been put in place, the chances of you performing will be high, and the other way around it will be there, vice versa. So that is also another advantage. So that is our question 1A. The next is question 1B, which says examine the challenges that are associated with team-based pay as part of performance-related pay scheme. So here you're talking about compensation based on teams or compensation based on groups. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the drawbacks associated with that method of pay? So in team-based pay, what we need to understand here, payment is done as per group or as per team, not as per an individual. That is the difference. So that means you'll be working as a team, you'll be working as a group, and then remuneration comes in form of the group, but not as per an individual person. So what are some of the challenges that could be associated with this method? Number one, loss of identity, and that is very true. Remember, you are working there, but the commitment comes in form of the group, not only as per person. And one thing we need to understand, when we work as teams or when we work in groups, sometimes in that group we might have those people who work harder than the others, or we might have those people who are very lazy than the others. We have all the kinds of people in that particular group. So for that person who works hard, definitely you will want to outshine or want to see the effort that he or she puts towards the job, but that will not be possible. Why? Because you're working as a group, so your identity comes in form of the group. So at the end of the day, if you want only your identity to be realized, becomes very difficult. That is number one challenge, loss of identity. And then we have another challenge, which is free riders. As I said earlier, in a group, we have all sorts of people. We have the hard workers, we have the lazy people, we have the free riders, the joy riders, that is, so to say. Those people who are just there, they're being carried by the group. They're not working, they're not hardworking, they're not committed. They're just there wandering around, basically because their name has been carried by the group. So another challenge associated with team-based payment will be paying others for free. People who are not working, but because the performance is group-wise, or because the performance is team-based, this person ends up getting the pay, basically because your group has carried you. So there is a problem with the free riders, or what we call the joy riders, when it comes to teamwork. Those people who are not working, those people who are not committed, also get paid because they've been carried by others. That is another challenge. Also, we have challenge number 3, management might lose sight of individual performance. That is very true, because at the end of the day, the management or the manager will be looking at how Group A has performed, not how so and so has performed. So at the end of the day, you get to see that their focus would be more into group than the individuals. When you want to be rewarded, you are rewarded as a group. Even if your effort was much more than the rest, definitely you like substitute that effort to the rest. So the reward, or maybe the recognition, comes to the group and not to the person, basically because management is looking at how that specific group or that specific team has basically performed. So at the end of the day, the manager or management lose sight of the individual performance. And then another challenge, number 4, revolt by top performers. Yes, top performers might feel bad, they might feel so very much awkward, because they put all the time, they put all the effort, they put all their resources there, they try to ensure that they perform well, but at the end of the day, they're not recognized. The group is the one that is recognized. So even if your effort was way forward, definitely that is all in vain. So some top performers might feel bad, and maybe to some extent try to resist in one way or the other, of which that can also be another disadvantage. And then lastly, possible infighting. Definitely, yes, for those who feel they're working hard and they know there are certain lazy people who have never worked, they might feel bad whenever the reward comes. The way you worked, you are just getting the same reward, you're just getting the same compensation with the person who is known to be a free rider, or with the person who is known to be a joy rider. So at the end of the day, such challenges could possibly bring some conflicts, misunderstandings, disagreements, and people to end up fighting. So those are just but a few. The question is only looking for 10 marks, so you highlight 5 and then thoroughly explain them. You'll be able to score your 10 marks. So there could be more reasons, there could be more challenges of team-based pay. These are just but a few that we've mentioned here in our question. So that is our number 2. Thank you. Let's meet in the next question, number 3.